So, Matt, why do you never see elephants hiding in trees?
I don't know.
Because they're so good at it.
Yeah.
Good.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
Well, I'm doing okay. How about you?
Oh, doing fine, I guess. Doing fine. It's summer, that's for sure.
Yes, hot. I'm sweating.
Yeah, it is warm.
I've got me a cool beverage tonight, so if you hear ice tinkling, it's because it's hot and I'm drinking it.
Yeah, Matt's trying to keep his core temperature cooled off there so he doesn't overheat.
My core is hot. It's like it's going to have a nuclear meltdown.
Hey, family show. Family show. Don't talk about your hot core. All right, so first we wanted to thank tonight's sponsors, Care of and Hers. Both of them are great companies that we really enjoy working with, and we really believe in what they're doing. So we'll talk more about them in a little bit. So the next couple episodes are going to be slightly different than we normally do.
How many times do we say that?
Dude, I think every episode is slightly different than every episode that we do on a normal basis because we're always trying to do something weird and different. So
yeah, here lately it seems like we say it a lot. But
yeah.
Hey, that's good. That's good. You know, we change it up. We keep it fresh. You know,
yeah,
that's the way we do it in the graveyard.
Right. So what we've done is we have asked our ladies to pick a topic. So Ashley picked a topic for me, and Amanda picked a topic for Matt, and we didn't know what the other one's topic was. They conversed with each other and they told each other what it was, but they didn't tell us.
Yeah, they made sure we didn't get the same thing.
Right, exactly. You gotta make sure.
And we've done this before where Adam covered a topic and I covered a topic and the other one didn't know, but we've done it in the same show. So this time, each one of us, you're going to get an entire show researched by just one of us, with the other one throwing in tidbits and, you know, little anecdotes and stupid stuff.
Like I like to call it the color commentary of the show.
Commentary.
You know, it's like the sportscaster that doesn't really know much about what's going on in the game, but he likes to talk.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh, hey, good sports ball game there, Jim." But so that's what we're doing the next couple weeks. So this week is mine, and next week will be Matt's. So, Matt, are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
All right. So tonight, the topic that Ashley has picked for me is the Devil's Backbone, which is the most haunted stretch of Texas highway.
I was hoping it'd be superhumans.
We're still waiting on that one.
How many shows have we done that we didn't do superhumans?
At least 30. We'll get there, Matt. We'll get there. All right. So there's, a lot of areas around the country and around the world, really, that people talk about having a haunted stretch of highway, or, you've got this haunted road in BFE somewhere that they say there's a hitchhiker on that can pick you up and all that. But it's not often that you find, a really long stretch of highway that has multiple different things happening on it. And so when Ashley picked this one and I started looking into it, I was like, oh yeah, this will be a good one. This is going to be a good episode.
Now, I've heard of this, but I can't say that I've ever heard any real stories or legends about it.
All right.
But I've heard the term the devil's backbone before.
Okay.
So,
well, I couldn't get everything that there was about it because, like we've said before, then it would just turn into the Devil's Backbone podcast, and we'd be doing this for like 30 episodes, you know?
Make a spinoff show.
Hey, that would be good. The Graveyard Backbone. No, the Devil's Tales. The Devil's Graveyard. Either one of those would work.
The Devil's Tales.
And spell it wrong. Tails.
Or with a Z.
Ooh, Talez. Everything's cool. Well, no, it's not the 90s anymore. Not everything's cooler with a Z. All right, so let's get into it a little bit here. The whole highway and the region surrounding it are so permeated with the paranormal activity and everything. They have been studied by investigators for years, and they even appeared on the hit show Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack in 1996. So Robert Stack did an episode on the Devil's Backbone.
Isn't it cool how Robert Stack sounds a little bit like Sean Connery?
Yeah, especially when I butcher
That's
it.
Right.
All right, so Texas Farm Roads 12, 165, 2325, and 32, along with U.S. Highway 281, form this big loop that connects the Wimberley area and the Blanco area of Texas. Now, this loop cuts through a very scenic portion of hill country there in Texas, and driving through it, you would imagine yourself in an old Wild West movie. Like, it's got that feel to it. There's the deserty, hilly area, and you can just picture Wyatt Earp riding up on a horse and shooting at you or something like that. Well, this road passes right alongside a, quote, ominous ridge that spans 20 miles, and it juts up 1,255 feet in the landscape around it.
Damn, that is an ominous ridge.
Isn't it? And see, people say that Texas doesn't have hills.
You got ominous ridges.
We have ominous ridges. We don't need hills.
It's like a really spicy bag of Ruffles. Ominous ridges.
Yeah. Ruffles now with ominous ridges. This is the area that is named the Devil's Backbone. It's also known as Diablo Espinosa or Spiny Devil, and so it lends that nickname to the road that runs by it, which is the Devil's Backbone Highway. Now, the path of Highway 32 used to be a cattle trail, and the ridge itself was this long, like, mystic place that was used in the old days by native tribes of the region for rituals and as a lookout point that would look out over the rough terrain there for incoming enemies. And bloody skirmishes were a common sight around that area at one point in time in history. So the area has quite a bloody history to it. It's this bloody history that it has, with the violence and the bloodshed and everything, that gives this scenic route there in Texas this almost tangible negative energy. Like, people say they can feel negativity when they drive down certain parts of this highway. And probably, like we've talked before, it has a lot to do with the stone tape theory, where the earth is soaking up that negative energy, and with a lot of bloodshed in that area, it's going to cause that. So, yeah, you've heard us talk about this many times in the past. When negative things happen, the earth will hang on to that energy, especially when it involves death and bloodshed. And so, right. Even if we're talking about a stretch of highway, which is, bigger than, somebody's house or, maybe even a cave that's haunted. But it's still
I mean, the earth has energy and the earth takes energy, and, we know energy is not created or destroyed, so it's got to go somewhere. And if it's enough negative energy, then the theory is it'll replay itself.
Exactly. And, just on the simple thought of, I've said this before, that the road has a memory, because if you think about like an accident that happens on the interstate, it's going to back up the interstate even hours after it's clear, because people stopping to rubberneck and everything. There's always that backup right there. And you can take this in the more grandiose scheme of, all the terrible things that have happened. The road does have a memory, and this area seems to have a memory itself.
I mean, there are probably, well, I'm not even going to hazard a guess, a lot of haunted stretches of road across the United States. And I'm really interested to hear what some of the stories are about this particular stretch that would give it the name the Devil's Backbone. I know up here there's a little stretch of road that's up in the hills that's called the Devil's Elbow, because it's going downhill and the turn is really sharp, and people have had a tendency to not make that turn and just go right off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure it's not the only Devil's Elbow,
Probably not. I mean,
come up with a new body part. This is
right.
The Devil's Gluteal Cleft.
Yeah. As long as it's not the gluteus maximus or anything along those lines. But hey,
smells bad, a little humid.
Yeah, we haven't explored all of the regions of the United States. There may be a Devil's Gluteus Maximus with a cave in it that's called the Devil's Cave.
The Devil's Big Toe.
Yeah. So we'll get there, Matt. We've got hundreds and hundreds of episodes more to do. We will investigate the Devil's Gluteus Maximus at some point. I guarantee it.
Yep.
So this area, again, has long been known as ground zero for mysterious accidents, disappearances, and a lot of ghostly phenomena. And some of these, researching these, I noticed they were not like some of the other ones that I've heard before. Obviously, you get some of the same ones. You get the weird hitchhikers and stuff like that, but I tried not to get those kind of stories that we've heard before. I wanted to get some different ones. And I found a couple good sources for these that I'm going to be reading from and talking about, because they seem to be the most in-depth. Well, there are a lot of people who believe that this area is super haunted, and there's reports of strange events that have come out of there for probably the past 100 years at least. Now, most of these stories take place in the heavily wooded areas of the backbone, places where it's, the sun doesn't really reach to the bottom of the valleys, and where you get this sense of being alone and totally cut off from the world that's outside. So the natural topography of the place kind of brings that feeling to you even before this happens. So the area is made up of mostly ranches and hunting cabins, and a lot of the stories come from these hunting cabins and these ranches. Now, one of the most popular stories that's been told by numerous people is the sound of phantom horses. Now, the hooves of which are heard thundering down trails in the Devil's Backbone area. Most say that these sounds could be the remnants of the Confederate soldiers who mustered at the forts in the area prior to heading out at the start of the Civil War. Now, one notable sighting was made by a man named Lynn Gentry, and he was foreman at the ranch of the local resident Burt Wall at the time. Now, we'll touch on Burt Wall a couple more times in this because he plays a big part. But Gentry claimed that one night he was jolted awake by the loud rumbling of what sounded like a whole herd of horses passing through the night outside. Now, when he looked outside, he claimed that he could see at least 20 men on horseback, all of whom seemed to be dressed in vintage Confederate uniforms. Now, the roar of the horses got almost deafening until it all just suddenly stopped, which brought a heavy silence crashing down in its wake.
If y'all hear that, that is not the rumbling of horses. That is a helicopter going over it.
Right? They're looking for you, Matt.
He's sitting here talking about this rumbling of horses, and I'm hearing this. And I was like, what in the world is going on? It's a chopper.
I have conjured the horses for you. But we don't normally get stories of phantom horses.
No, we don't hear a lot of phantom horse stories.
No. So hearing that, and I read that in several different accounts that, that's a widespread thing in that area is the phantom horses, the phantom hoof beats that you hear. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Sounds like something from Scooby-Doo.
Right?
The haunted carriage that comes rumbling through town. There have been a few stories of things like that, like a haunted carriage where it'll rocket through the middle of the town and there won't be anything there, but it sounds like a horse and carriage that's rushing through the town.
Mm-hmm.
But those kind of stories are really cool because they're not typical. They're not what you usually hear. And you wouldn't necessarily expect to hear that on a stretch of highway, but if that highway is old enough, I'm sure it was a trail for transport, soldiers, goods, whatever, Pony Express,
right,
whatever.
And in having an apparition of an animal is not common. We hear it sometimes, but it's not common. And most of the time when we hear something like that, it's a dog or a cat.
Right.
It's canid or it's feline or something. It's very rare to get something outside of those two species. So it's cool to have a horse apparition.
Yeah, you don't hear too many ghost fish stories.
No, which I'm looking forward to it.
Unless you're talking to me and I'm telling you about this fish that I caught that you can't see.
Right.
Then that's a ghost fish.
Right. It was 150 pounds.
Big. It took me 30 minutes to reel it in.
Why don't you have a picture of it? Oh, it was an apparition of a fish.
It was a ghost of a fish. I caught a ghost fish.
When I got it up to the boat, it went ethereal on me all of a sudden.
It vanished. Must have been a mermaid.
Like a Bigfoot fish. It got blurry in the photo for some reason.
Yeah. I laid it on the cooler to measure it and it was gone.
Yeah, weird. You just sound like half of my family when we go fishing. Okay, Matt, so let's talk about hers. Now, getting birth control is a hassle, and it takes a lot of time to go to your doctor's office and to receive the new pack on time. And you have to make several phone calls just to find out why your insurance is no longer paying for it. And that's pretty crazy. Your birth control should be delivered to you when you need it, where you need it, with no judgment, and with your physician available to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, there's no need to take travel time out of your already busy day, for hers provides access to licensed doctors online who can evaluate you and, if appropriate, prescribe you birth control that can be delivered direct to your door. For hers puts the purchasing power back in your hands, bundling all the costs of receiving your birth control into one low price and without the need for insurance.
Right, and our listeners can get their first month of birth control from forhers.com for just $5 while supplies last and subject to your doctor's approval. And all you've got to do is go to forhers.com/graveyard. That's FORHERS.com/graveyard.
That's right. To receive your first month of birth control from forhers.com for just $5, go to forhers.com/graveyard. That's FORHERS.com/graveyard.
Prior to the arrival of the first Spanish settlers in Texas, that area of land was inhabited by a lot of Native American tribes, and it was the much feared Comanche who controlled the Texas Hill Country up until probably the 1860s. Well, the Comanche were fierce warriors who had long defeated tribes such as the Kiowa, the Caddo, and the Apache to become the masters of that area. Well, many of the ghostly tales from the Devil's Backbone area involve encounters with Native American spirits, which are likely those of the Comanche people that used to live there. One tale that's told several times is a hunter who had just climbed down from his tree stand at dusk and was walking back to his hunting cabin. Now, while he was walking along the trail, he sensed that he was not alone. And he looked to his side, and when he did, he saw a dark-skinned, shirtless man less than 10 yards from him. The man was wearing buckskin breeches and wore the war paint of a Comanche brave.
So there you go.
Yeah. So there have been Comanche sightings there.
Yeah, and Native American spirits in areas like this are not that uncommon. I know we discussed one back when we were talking about the Bridgewater Triangle, that there was a common reoccurring story about a Native American spirit that was there almost as a guardian.
Right.
And that's curious too. And, you know, this would be a huge tangent to start down, so we'll just touch on it. But a lot of people will believe that Native American spirits will guard Native American burial grounds. Mm-hmm. And they're not there to harm you. They're there to dissuade you from coming into that area because it's sacred ground.
Right.
And so, you know, those kind of stories, especially out west, you know, in West Texas into New Mexico and Arizona and Nevada, you'll hear more stories very similar to that.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. A lot of the stories you hear of Native American spirits aren't malicious. They're not, I was attacked by, or I was scared, you know, it came rushing at me or whatever. Most of the time when you have a Native American spirit, it's standing, it's looking, it seems to be in a reverent pose of some sort. You know, unless we talk about skinwalkers, and that's a whole nother thing that we don't need to get into, because again, a 5 mile long tangent if we did that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it is more of, like you said, a guarding, a warning, basically. You know, don't mess with this area because this is sacred to us.
Right.
Well, on that note, the Comanche were very spiritual people, and they had a connection to the land and the animals that shared that land with them. Now, one of the animals that was prominent in their beliefs was the wolf, and it represented a stoic fierceness that Comanche warriors held dear and wanted to strive to be like. So there have been many sightings of a ghostly Native American herding what they have quoted as wraith cattle in the vicinity. And this apparition is so well known that they have nicknamed him Drago. So you've got it reminds me of that Ghost Riders in the Sky song.
Yeah.
because it's a Native American that was herding wraith cattle.
Yeah, so, that's a really cool story. Cool song too.
Yeah,
but
especially the Johnny Cash version of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, back to that rancher Burt Wall that we were talking about. He was also a author who wrote 8 books that chronicled all the weird phenomena in the Backbone area, and he was working on a 9th right before his death in 2010. He lived in the Devil's Backbone area for over 30 years, and he's had his own ghostly encounters in that time. And as he explained, he once heard his dog barking and looked outside to see a ghostly monk-type apparition dressed in what he described as 1700s clothing, which vanished right before his eyes. Now, Wall claimed that it was most likely the spirit of a Franciscan monk who once lived in the area by the name of Espinosa. So, I guess on his property, he found records of a Franciscan monk that lived there, and he has seen the apparition of it.
Yeah, and there were a lot of Spanish monks that lived in that area. There were monasteries and there were safe havens and way stations for travelers, where they could stop, they could get something to eat, they could get medical attention if they needed it, take a bath, water their horses, those kind of things. And those areas were typically run by Spanish monks.
Right. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities for there to be an apparition of a Spanish monk there.
Right.
Well, Wall has also spoken of a friend of his son's by the name of John Villarreal. And he was out hiking with some friends when he had a frightening vision of a wolf jumping out at him. So he and 2 friends were hiking one day when John became separated from the others. Now, as he walked, he came upon a wolf. And animals like that aren't found in the area much now. They've been hunted to extinction or moved out of that area. Well, as John froze with both fear and curiosity, the wolf charged him. As the wolf quickly approached his position, the man was certain that he was going to be devoured, killed and devoured by this charging wolf. But the predator leapt at him, and instead of taking him down, John felt the animal pass right through him. Now, when the 3 friends were reunited, he told the story to everybody, but, unsurprisingly, his 2 friends really didn't believe his story. Well, they returned to their cabin, and John began exhibiting strange behavior. He started speaking in a low guttural tone and talking about Indian massacres. Wall has said of that incident, quote, he was totally out of it, ranting in a language that sounded like a mix of Spanish and Apache. Well, as he became more agitated and his friends became more concerned, a strong gust of wind suddenly blew open the back door of the cabin. Now, after a few moments, the wind died down and the man returned to normal, but wasn't able to explain his behavior. And according to Wall, possessions like that are not rare in the area, and they almost always involve the presence of a ghostly wolf jumping into the victim.
Now, see, that makes me think, is it a ghostly wolf or is it skinwalker-ish?
Right, yeah.
I think it could fit either one, and I've not really heard any stories about a ghostly wolf possessing a human being or anything else for that matter. But it does kind of sound similar to some of the skinwalker stories that we've discussed on the show before.
Right. And, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to have a skinwalker type spirit in that area, because the Native American tribes in that area would have believed in the skinwalker.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, and we have reports of, it's not just the Skinwalker Ranch area that has skinwalkers. there are reports of skinwalkers all over the United States.
Right. And it's interesting that it happens along a stretch of highway in that area, because if you really start digging into actual stories of possible skinwalker sightings, you'll hear a very frequent account that involves someone in a car with what appears to be some type of animal that is able to keep up with the car going down the highway. You know, here you're traveling down this highway at 60 miles an hour, and you look out the window, and what looks like a wolf type creature is keeping pace with you.
Right.
Now, I don't know how fast wolves are, but I know they can't run 60 miles an hour.
No, probably 30.
If it's true, that makes you think, well, it's something spectral for sure. You know,
Yeah.
there's no living creature that's going to keep up with a car going 60 miles an hour.
No, and I'm glad you made that tie-in, because I had that in my mind too, and I had forgot about it. That there are a lot of stories of people driving down the interstate, and not just skinwalker, but if you look at reports of dogmen, like of,
you know, sure.
You read any books by Linda Godfrey and you get stories of there being dogmen or canid apparitions of some sort next to a highway or a long stretch of road out in the country. So this ties into a lot of other things like that. But like you said, not really heard many reports of a wolf or canid possessing anybody.
Yeah, haven't heard that before.
No, so it's a little bit different. Well, there was a deer hunter named John Mears, and he was waiting in his tree stand when he heard the crunching of rocks, kind of like someone was pacing down below the tree where he was sitting. Well, this intruder didn't respond to any of his calls to identify himself. He just kept circling the tree for several minutes, and Mears kept wondering who it could be out in the middle of nowhere. Because if you know anything about deer hunting, you don't set up a deer blind anywhere near people.
Right.
You know,
that's bad. That's bad news.
Right. You're setting it up way out, because you don't want to be near people and accidentally shoot somebody or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't want some dude over there rutting in the woods and you're like, that's a deer. Bam.
Right. 5-point buck. Oh, wait, no, it was just my buddy Buck.
Yeah. It's my buddy Buck. I told him not to buy that hat.
Yeah, stupid antler hat, and he's wearing a fur coat out in the middle of the woods. Dummy. Well, finally, Mears would decide to go down and investigate. And when he did, he found that not only was there not anyone there, but there also weren't any footprints or any sign that anyone had been walking around the tree at all. Now, he walked a bit out from the tree, and he was scanning the area for anyone that could be there. And when he found no one in the area, he looked back and saw this old Native American man standing still next to the tree. He was looking out at Mears and just staring at him. Well, he was a little bit unnerved, to say the least, at this point. So, yeah, I would be too.
I'm unnerved just hearing it.
Right? So, Mears decided to call it quits at that point and head back home, which I would have too. But the Native American man purportedly followed him for a long time before he just finally blinked out of existence into thin air. So Mears is walking, trying to get out of there and get away from this apparition. And as he's looking back over his shoulder, he keeps seeing this Native American man keeping pace with him. When all of a sudden he's looking at him and he just goes, poof, and is gone. So he knows it wasn't just a person, because I don't know of a person that can just go and be out of existence.
Well, I can. I don't do it very often, though.
Well, you've never shown it to me, and I'm going to need you to prove it.
I keep it under wraps,
Yeah.
But
you just let the cat out of the bag now, Matt.
Yeah, see, I don't do it. It's not like a party trick, I don't just do it for anybody. But, hunters, again, they don't mistake stuff in the woods. If he saw what he thought was a Native American, then if he's being truthful, I believe that he saw what he saw.
Right.
He's not going to see another animal and mistake that for a Native American standing out there. I mean,
No.
most hunters don't hunt in places that they're unfamiliar with, especially if they're alone.
Right.
So they're going to be very knowledgeable of what's around there. If they see something like that, that's going to put them on alert, and it's going to make them want to know what it is.
Sure.
And so I'm thinking, if a hunter tells a story that says, look, this is what I saw out in the woods, I have a tendency to believe that he saw something, that he couldn't explain, and he's going to pretty much know what should be out there. So if something that shouldn't be out there or wouldn't normally be out there is there, he's going to say, hey, that's something that shouldn't be here.
Right. I mean, you've got to know your area if you're going to hunt it, because you got to know what you can shoot and what you can't shoot. So,
Right.
Well, there's other assorted hauntings in that area, and they include a phantom that apparently jumps onto the roofs of passing cars on the road. Obviously the ghostly hitchhikers that we've talked about, and shadow people that follow hikers in the area. So if you're hiking in that area, be aware you may get followed by a shadow person.
Yeah. Or a Wendigo or a skinwalker.
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
all bets are off. Anything could be out there. People have had all kinds of strange sightings out there. Anything goes at this point.
Right. No kidding.
If we've talked about something that's got a Native American tie-in, then this would be the place to go to see if you can see it.
Right.
Care/of is a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements customized for your specific health needs. You take a short quiz and answer questions about your diet, lifestyle, fitness, and health goals, and Care/of puts together a personalized plan just for you.
And with summer in full swing, you need to make health and wellness a priority again. Care/of makes it easy to upgrade your healthy routine. You give yourself support this season with a boost, whether you're looking for energy, better sleep, to maintain a level of unstressfulness in your life, or something else to help you feel your healthiest.
Adam, it can be really hard to know what vitamins or supplements you should be taking.
That's true.
But Care/of makes it easy to find out what you specifically need to be your healthiest. Depending on your personalized Care/of plan, you'll get daily vitamin packs and/or protein powder sent right to your door. It's so cute and customized. The packets even say your name on them, and they have little quotes of the day on them too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And you can modify your subscription at any time when your needs or preferences change. For 25% off your first Care/of order, go to takecareof.com and enter GRAVE. That's GRAVE.
That's right. It's 25% off your first Care/of order. And all you got to do is go to takecareof.com and enter the code GRAVE, GRAVE. There's also a spectral woman and child who are believed to be the family of a lost miner. Now, Jackie Milligan, who is co-founder of Texas Paranormal Events, has investigated the area, and one of the places she looked into was this supposedly haunted ranch where they encountered the lurking presence of a little girl. Now, the team managed to contact this little girl through EVP recordings, and Milligan said about that case, she said, quote, "One family called us because their youngest son was talking to someone. They thought it was cute and an imaginary friend until he told them she was a little girl with a hole in her head. Now, she says it was funny because the cat would act like someone was playing with him when no one was. I was asking questions about the cat, and one EVP had the little voice saying yes when I asked if she liked playing with the cat. Dang ghost kids, man.
I'm telling you, and ghost kids that are lurking, they're the worst. Lurking ghost children.
Lurking ghost kids, man. That's almost as bad as black-eyed kids.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, when you become a kid ghost, you think you still have to go to school?
I doubt it, but it's possible.
You have to go to lurking class.
Yeah, lurking you. Gonna go LU?
Yeah, lurking 101. You know, how to lurk.
The handbook for the recently deceased just popped into my head.
Lurking around humans. Chapter 4.
So we've talked about the open areas and all that. Well, there's a building there that's been there for a long time that has had a lot of activity that we need to talk about, and that's the Devil's Backbone Tavern. Now, it was built on the site of an ancient Indian campground, and it's widely believed that this place is super haunted. Well, an entire Civil War battle is said to have occurred on the Devil's Backbone limestone ridge, and a man named Robert Kelly, who is a tavern regular, said, "Oh, there are ghosts. I guarantee you." He said he sometimes sees shadowy figures up on a steep nearby ridge to this tavern. Well, the Devil's Backbone Tavern is situated on one of the most picturesque spots along this area, and it has a history that dates back to the late 1890s, when the first stone room on that property was built for a blacksmith shop and a stagecoach stop at the base of this treacherous trail. Well, after Prohibition, the sale of alcoholic beverages became licensed in early 1936. And since Hayes County was dry with no means to purchase alcohol, the tavern was built next to the old blacksmith shop, which was just past the county line. This was in 1937. Now, in the 1950s, a service station and package store building were added, and shortly after that, there was a dance hall that was constructed, which is still there. You can go see all this. Well, the venue became an attraction for anything you needed, you know, cold beer, tire change, or a butt whooping with the local touring bands in that area.
Or just a line dance.
Just a line dance. I mean, go out there and get your tire changed, a butt whooping, and have a line dance, you know?
I've been on the road 100 miles, and I need to do the whatever, you know, the achy breaky.
I came here for some line dancing and butt whooping, and I've all out of butts to whoop. That's all I got. Sorry.
Can you imagine? It'd been funnier if I'd actually known the name of a line dance.
Would it have been, though?
Probably not. It would have just come out smoother.
Yeah, it would have just been a smoother transition.
See, that's why we say we don't write these jokes, folks. We just come up with them on the fly. You know, some of them are terrible.
They'd be worse. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if we tried to do it, it'd be awful.
Like, it would be like
these guys think they're funny.
Mm-hmm. The worst stand-up you've ever heard, just that would be us. So, what about bags? You like paper bags? The weird thing about paper bags, I'm not going to do it. So, there was an article written by Jillian Bliss for reportingtexas.org. Now, she says the TVs in the tavern will turn off and on and switch channels on their own sometimes. And this is according to Melanie Walker, who's a bartender at the Devil's Backbone Tavern. She says I guess whoever is doing it just wants to watch TV or doesn't like what we're watching. So at least she's got a good sense of humor about it.
Now, if I'm drinking at the Devil's Backbone Tavern, I'm expecting something to happen. You know, I'm expecting to see some TVs turning on and off and changing channels. I'm expecting to see some drinks falling off tables and the jukebox playing by itself. You know, I'm expecting to see an old country boy playing a fiddle against a guy in a red suit with horns. You know, I'm expecting to see some stuff if I'm drinking at the Devil's Backbone Tavern. I'm telling you.
Well, and you'll probably get that if you're there, because there is a sign on the tavern's mantle that says, quote, "Ghost warning. If doors and windows open and close by themselves, just ignore it. It's just our ghost trying to get attention. He thinks it's funny."
Knock it off, Fred.
Yeah, exactly. Fred, we're trying to drink. Quit turning the lights on and off.
We're not air conditioning the whole neighborhood.
Right. Were you born in a barn? Well, you probably were. Never mind. So there's a stone that's part of the fireplace, and it's shaped like the devil's face. It looks across the bar from just above the hearth and is said to eavesdrop on conversations. Now, Walker says, we get a lot of tourists that come in here because of Burt Wall's books and the articles and the media. She says they'll type in haunted bars on the internet and see us and come out. She says we get a lot of college kids who hear about it and are looking for something to do. So Matt and I would end up being those people that type in haunted bars and just show up.
That's exactly right. I don't know where we're going to go out drinking. Where do we want to go? Find a haunted one.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go there.
So there was
nothing
a lot
like
of stories.
a few spirits with your spirits.
Brunch. So there was a guy that wrote a lot of stories about it named Robert Kelly, and his picture hangs on the tavern wall next to pictures of other departed customers. Now, Kelly was known to have an attitude, and perhaps he still does, because the story goes that twice his picture fell and hit his former girlfriend in the head as she told unfavorable tales about him.
Now, I want that to happen. Mm-hmm. When I die, I want a picture of me somewhere that will fall on the head of somebody that I didn't get along with in life.
Right.
Then I would feel justified.
Right. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Can you imagine some guy standing there and all of a sudden my picture lands on his head? They were like, Matt never liked you. Yeah. He never liked you, man.
he didn't tell you this when he was alive, but he was never a big fan of you, and he feels he's got nothing to lose. That's now, right. So he's going to throw his face at you.
Guy's sitting there rubbing his head, going, "What the
heck?" Yeah, just don't sit under that signed baseball bat that Matt signed. Stay away from that. Well, Walker says that her ex-husband once came back from a hunt on a ranch alongside the Backbone area, and he said he would never return. He had apparently been frightened by the sound of, yet again, at least 50 thundering hooves, and by the apparition of a Confederate cavalry troop that accompanied the sound. So again, we have a throwback to the thundering hooves and cavalry troops and everything, that this guy apparently wasn't going to go hunting again after that.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
Right? In my hunting spot, I'm trying to get a dove, and all of a sudden I've got a cavalry coming at me.
Can you imagine sitting there for the first time with some local guy and you hear all that thundering hooves and everything, and it's always like, hey, is it a storm rolling in? Oh, no, it's just ghost horses coming by.
Yeah, what? You'll be fine. Ghost what? I'm out, man. I'm out. Done. Well, Wall and Betty used to meet at the tavern, and the ghost horses came up one time and said, I got to thinking about a story that Bert wrote about the wild horses, Betty says. I told him what happened, and he told me that from over here to a campsite in Blanco, they hear horses from time to time, about 50 of them usually. He said the only thing it could be is Confederate soldiers riding through. I mean, well, I'm not going to say that's the only thing.
That's the only thing.
There's probably other things that it could be.
And how do they know it's about 50?
That's a good question.
Do you just know, by the sound of it? Yeah, it sounds like about 50. Yeah, that sounds like 50.
I guess I've never been around enough horses to be able to estimate what a herd, the number of the herd is, but it's got to be just a wild guess.
I think I'd just be listening going, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, that's a butt ton.
It's more than a few horses.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking on a scale of, 2 to 5 to a butt ton, that's probably a butt ton, I'm just going to say. So I'm going to end this with a quote by Walker, who she says this was the only time that she was ever truly scared. She says, I was closing up all alone one night at the Devil's Backbone Tavern when it was raining. I was the only one here, but when I went to go out the back door, I heard something. I looked and I saw 2 wet footprints, but there was no one else around. So you're all alone in the tavern and you hear a noise, and then all of a sudden 2 wet footprints appear. That would scare me too.
Yeah. Just you're like,
Again, it's a Scooby-Doo type thing.
Then the jukebox kicks on and
and then I go bing, and I'm out the door.
There's 2 wet footprints line dancing.
Yeah, there's 2 wet footprints and a big wet spot in the floor.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
So those were some of the most interesting stories and stuff that I could find from the Devil's Backbone area. You can go research it more on your own because there's a lot of stories and everything that happen, but you run across a lot of the same thing that you hear in other areas of the hitchhikers and all that. And I didn't want to just reiterate some things that we have heard before.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of listeners in Texas, and I bet for Texas natives, they've heard plenty of stories about this place. So,
I'm sure.
So if you've got them, please share them. We'd love to hear some of these stories. I mean, you guys do such a fantastic job sharing your personal stories, or those stories that you grew up hearing your grandparents tell you about some place around where you live that was haunted or some weird thing. So yeah, if you've got stories about the Devil's Backbone, let us hear them. We'd love to hear the ones that you can't just Google. Right. that you're not gonna pick up with an easy web search.
Yeah, the personal stories are always much better than what you can find in books and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So hit us up with those stories. Email us, Twitter, Facebook. You can even drop us a message on the website because we've got a little note section that'll send it right to us.
Yeah, and our website is graveyardpodcast.com. Now, on the website, like Adam said, you can leave us a note, send us a message. You can see pictures of Adam's ugly mug and myself. You can learn more about Graveyard Tales. You can find links to listen to the show, links to buy our merchandise, and links to become a patron. And we always like to thank everyone that has donated to the show. Go check us out on iTunes and rate and review. If you've got a friend or a family member that's new to the show, tell them, hey, go and leave them a rating and a review on iTunes, because that gets them up the rankings and it allows more people to find us easier and brings them into the graveyard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'd like to thank our sponsors, Hers and Care of. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Great companies to work with. Please go check them out. Now, until next week, when you hear the stories that Amanda picked out for me to research,
I'm looking forward to it.
We will save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.
It's easy to support Murderific. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you listen. Follow me on social media on Instagram at Murderific Podcast or Twitter at Murderific BPC. Like what you hear? Rate us 5 stars on iTunes and tell a friend.
Hello and welcome to the Murderific True Crime Podcast, featuring your host, Bernadette.
Content warning. The Murderific True Crime Podcast contains offensive language and will have information about kidnappings, torture, murder and sexual assault. It is inappropriate for children or the faint of heart.
Welcome to the Murderific Cult of Domesticity. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Mashup. I guess it's a mashup.
It is a mashup. The mashup that's trying really hard not to be.
And talking today to Courtney, who has her own podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
So, hello, friends. It is a history and true crime podcast. So sometimes you get history, sometimes you get true crime. All of it's probably horrible things that you wish you didn't know. So you're welcome.
So today we're going to be talking about Jessica Lynn Paget. And this was a pretty recent event. You guys may have heard of it. So we're just going to get right into it. On November 21st, 2014, Jessica Paget was having a normal, typical, boring day. I don't know what that is, but her husband kissed her while she was sleeping, and he got a ride to his job. She got her 3 kids ready for the day, dropped her 2 oldest off, and took her youngest child with her to her job at daycare. She left her job around lunchtime to do a quick errand and simply vanished, as lots of people do in these true crime stories. A massive search was done for Jessica, and when she was finally found 5 days later, the story of what had been done to her and who committed this crime will leave everyone in total disbelief and shock. This is Jessica Paget's story.
Woo!
Woo!
It's disappearance, reappearance. It's like she's a magician.
Not in a good way.
It's true crime. It's never in a good way.
No, it's never. It's never good. So Jessica's life, she was born December 15th, 1980 in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry, I've been there a lot.
Have you?
I have friends who live outside of Philly, and they live right by Allentown.
Mm-hmm. She was daughter to Thomas Kazmar and Danielle Bittner. She had 4 siblings. Jessica's mother remarried when she was 12 years old to Gregory Graff. Jessica described Gregory as her second father. So her stepdad was like a dad to her, basically. Jessica's mom and stepdad and all of the kids lived in the family home together. Her mother and stepdad ran a fencing business out of their home. So
is it sad I thought fencing, like Olympic sport fencing?
That's what I thought too. Fencing business seems really super boring.
You just put up fences, take down fences. You fence with the fences.
Jessica went to high school and graduated in 1998. And then she went on to community college and took classes on early childhood education. Jessica was mom to 3 boys, and she had been with her husband, Michael Paget, for 8 years, but they had just recently got married in August of 2014.
They wanted to make sure they liked each other enough after the 3 kids.
Yeah. Like, why bother getting married at that point?
Tax breaks.
Right, yeah. Insurance.
Medical. He can be in the room if you're dying.
That's it. She was a dedicated and caring mom to her children and other children as well because she worked in a daycare. She loved her job and her family. In 2014, she was 33 years old. So, on the day of November 21st, 2014, Jessica's husband got picked up by a friend to go to his job just like normal. She got her kids and herself ready, all that basic stuff. She dropped her kids off at school. She took her youngest with her to work. She arrived at work at 8:30 a.m. driving her white Subaru Outback station wagon. At 12:50, Jessica told her co-workers that she had to run a quick errand. She said she had to help her stepfather with his fax machine and would be back in 30 minutes.
A fax machine?
I know.
Oh my God.
Who has those? I think some people do, but I don't even know how they work. I don't know how my computer works.
I think it's like a phone, but you type the person's number in, and then you put the piece of paper in, and it's like an email, but like through the phone, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm in that sweet spot where we just got internet when I was growing up, like dial-up, but we didn't have to use faxes.
Yeah.
So, I have no idea. You hit it? You hit it a lot? Beat the fax?
She had to help her stepdad with the fax machine because he was older, so he, still used those things. And she left her kid at the daycare. And then Jessica never went back to work. She just didn't go back. So
that fax machine really took a while. She must have known how to work it. We don't. Someone please explain to us how faxes work. I'm actually now curious.
Right. Jessica's coworkers were concerned because she didn't come back from her errand. So her kid was still at school and she would never leave her child. So that's really weird.
That's normally parenting 101.
Yeah.
Don't leave the child.
Yeah. Don't leave your kid in the back of a heated car also.
I mean, my parents have forgotten where I was when they were supposed to pick me up several times.
That's bad.
Once they forgot to take me somewhere, and they just left me home when I was in elementary school.
They went to work and left you.
No, we were going back to my school and for a school party, and they just all left me.
That's bad.
My mom told me I made the worst decision, though. I tried to call the school, which doesn't look good.
You made them look bad.
No, they didn't pick up. It's fine. I ended up calling my great aunt, who called came and got me, and then took me. She's like, "Did you forget someone?" My parents were like, "Oh, shit."
Oh my god. Jessica's coworkers started calling her cell phone repeatedly, and no one answered. After 2 hours, her coworkers called her husband, Michael. And I've also saw that his name is pronounced Micah, so he didn't know where his wife was. At this time, everyone was pretty worried, and leaving work was not in Jessica's character. Jessica's husband, Michael, called Jessica's mom at this point, Danielle, and Danielle had been in Florida for a few days. And she said, "Why don't you call Jessica's stepdad, Gregory?" So they're just calling around because no one knows where she is.
I'm going to tell you, because her husband, Michael, is also called Micah, I'm now just picturing him as the douche from Paranormal Activity, because his name was Micah. Have you never seen?
I know.
Oh.
Actually, I have seen the first one, but I only, it wasn't scary, so it didn't, stick in my head.
It's basically the boyfriend who has all the cameras is Micah. And so now it's just a stereotypical dude with dark hair. And that's now my mental image of him. Which isn't helpful. It isn't. But that's just where my mind went, is that it's the guy from Paranormal Activity who we never see again because he's dead.
We'll just call him Michael.
Nope, it's already stuck there. It's okay. Micah. It's Micah.
Micah does call Gregory, Jessica's stepdad, and he says, "I haven't seen Jessica all day." Which is
so
weird.
The fact wasn't the problem then.
Yeah, he said he didn't see her, so maybe Jessica was lying about where she went.
Another fax, maybe.
Jessica's mother cut her Florida trip short, and she instantly flew home like any mom would do. Her kid was missing. After 4 hours, Jessica's friends and her husband went to the police and reported her missing. The police really jumped on this case, which is kind of odd because usually when you do these stories, the police are like, well, maybe she ran away. Maybe she wanted to start another life. And then they don't do anything. But
yeah, because she's a grown adult, and technically as a grown adult, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, she can disappear if she wants to. But everyone else is like, yeah, no, this is weird. This is really weird.
Yeah. So they put out an APB on her. Basically, the officers know that she's missing and they know what her car is. And the police do the basics. They check if Jessica is in any hospitals or morgues in the area. And then, because the small town police were not equipped for this type of case, they called in the Pennsylvania State Police.
That's actually really, really smart.
Yeah.
You don't even see that. Normally you see them
bungle the case.
Well, I mean, even if they do jump on it right away, they're like, we're good enough. And this one, they're like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
They
probably had like 2 cops or something. Maybe they had like 2 officers.
They probably had about 20, so you can rotate shifts, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it's completely different than like when you think about the Madeleine McCann case, because I had to watch that documentary and I'm still traumatized. It wasn't good. That's why I'm traumatized.
Yeah.
But you just see like, it's so jurisdictional. And when like people are like willing to say, we don't know what we're doing, let's get some people who do this here. It's so nice and refreshing.
Yeah, it's different to hear. The police tried to retrace Jessica's steps that day and started trying to find any surveillance footage of her. They interviewed her friends, mother, family, stepdad, and her husband. The police pinged Jessica's phone, and they got a hit from that, and they found her car right off at the Dollar General parking lot. Jessica's white Subaru was abandoned in the parking lot.
Was it unlocked?
It was unlocked, and there was no Jessica. Her phone, purse, and credit cards and keys were inside the unlocked car. So it's not good.
It's no bueno. That is like everyone's worst fear, because 1, you're abducted, 2, the rapture's happened, and we're all still here.
She gets to go, and we're all stuck here.
The question is, which is the better side? Because we don't know where you go for the rapture. Could be worse.
Right.
But still, it could have happened.
Yeah.
Or aliens, I guess, is the third option. But I'm going to go with option number 1, if she was abducted.
Police tried to get surveillance video from anywhere around the parking lot. They found some footage that showed Jessica's car. It showed her parking her car, which they thought it was her, getting out and walking down an alley. The footage is very blurry, and the police assumed that it was Jessica. So they started a huge search and searched for her for 5 days. Thousands of people joined in with Jessica's husband and family to find her, and they were handing out flyers with Jessica's photo on them. And there was a total media blitz, and it was all over the news and national news. So everyone was looking for her.
I think this is always the nice part, is when someone goes missing and it's like really weird, or like even like someone goes missing locally, a lot of people come out to look. Yeah. And you see the community come together being like, one of our own is gone, let's go get her. And when it gets picked up nationally, it's nicer, because then you get the whole nation looking for you.
Right. Police kept re-interviewing Gregory, who's Jessica's stepfather, because his statements weren't making sense from the very beginning. First, he said he didn't see Jessica, and everyone at her work was like, well, she said that she was going there. So that's a little bit fishy. And then he said that Jessica did not fix his fax machine and that it had been broken for ages. He said that he wasn't home that day and he was getting lunch at a gas station because his wife was gone. And then police looked over video footage at the gas station and they didn't see Greg Graff at all. So he was lying about going out to lunch. So they were like, something's up. Police got the surveillance footage of Jessica in the parking lot again. They sharpened the images so they could look at it better. They realized the person getting out of Jessica's white Subaru was most likely a man, because when he got out of the car, he was like over the top of the car. So they realized he was like 6 feet tall. So it wasn't her. Yeah. No.
Can I put a guess out? Is it Gregory?
It might be. It might be. They also see the person driving get out of the car, then stoop down, which is like so scary when you see the footage. He stoops down and he moves the driving seat into a closer position to the steering wheel.
Oh no.
Yeah, which is like horrifying. So he's like trying to make it seem like she was driving.
Because first of all, no one remembers where someone else has their seat. Let's not lie. We all try to be that courteous person after you drive someone else's car and scoot it up. In my mom's case, it's easy. You just scoot it all the way up because she's tiny.
Me too.
And in my dad's case, you just scoot it all the way back because he's a giant. But you still never get it right.
Yeah.
So no matter what, when you come back in, you have to be like,
And like
the dance of someone else has been in your car.
Why would he leave the car? Why would he leave the keys in the car and stuff? I don't know. That's weird.
Maybe he hoped someone would steal it.
Oh.
Because think about it. If you see a car with the keys in it, phone, purse, no one, like, it's kind of like one of those, was it Chicago where they left, like, an unattended semi with, like, Nikes and all that in there as a sting to get people who would steal from it?
What?
It's kind of, yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. They try to catch poor people.
Oh, that is bad.
But it's kind of like that. But he's hoping someone will take the evidence and they'll be like, he murdered or kidnapped her. Because he had a car. You see?
They continued to watch the video, and this time they catch video of a man in a truck with a racing stripe underneath leaving the alleyway. So they saw that someone walked into the alleyway, so they just continued watching, and then they saw the truck with this, like, prominent racing stripe underneath, and they realized that the truck did belong to Gregory Graff, Jessica's stepfather. Surprise.
First of all, that just shows premeditation if the truck's already there.
Yeah.
You can't say it's not premeditation because how else is your truck there? It's an alley, not near your house.
Right. Police get a search warrant, and with Jessica's mother's permission, allow police to search her home and property. So I'm sure the police went there and she was like, sure, whatever, search my house. Like, police find a small amount of blood on a tissue in the basement. So that's not much. They also find the fax machine, which was not broken, and showed that it had been used on November 21st at 1:04 p.m. and that the paper that had been fixed had Jessica Paget's signature on it. So she sent a fax, and she like signed her name or typed her name. So she was there, and she was there at 1:04. So he's a huge liar.
His pants are so on fire, it's Mount Doom.
So police at this point are like, all right, Gregory, it's on. They interrogate him pretty hard, and they tell him all the lies that he has been caught in. Gregory, we should note, has never been arrested for any crimes in his life, and not even any misdemeanors. So the police were interrogating him, and he, like, cracked.
Like an egg?
Like an egg. Just like Forensic Files, when they're like, we know you did this, and the guy's like, I know I did it. Like that.
I'm so sorry! He's like Jell-O, he's so wiggly, like, as soon as they poke him, he's just like, no, I did it, it's cool. I'm sorry!
Gregory made a comment about not being able to see his dogs anymore. So they were interrogating him. He's like, I'm not going to be able to see my dogs. So the police knew that he was going to confess.
First of all, that is very valid. Don't commit crimes because you won't be able to see your dogs. And dogs are great.
Yeah. Cats are better, but
I'm allergic, so.
Gregory told the police that he killed his stepdaughter. At his home, he said that he gave her no warning, and he took a handgun out of his closet and shot Jessica in the back of the head. So she was fixing his fucking fax machine, and he walked up behind her, and he shot her in the back of the head.
First of all, rude, because 1, she is fixing something for you.
Yeah.
And 2, you just don't attack people.
It is rude. The motive, he said, was sexual. He said, quote, "I had a crazy feeling, something sexual in nature. At this point, my mind was still spinning, basically thinking of sex for whatever reason. During that time, I tried to video, and I don't know why." So he confesses to taking out his video recorder, and he tapes all the sexual things he did to her body when she was dead. His own stepdaughter, the girl who described him as a second father, and a man that she had known her whole life. So,
I'm sorry. I'm just.
Yeah, moment of silence. For real.
So many thoughts. Because, like, clearly it was premeditative to a point.
Yeah.
Like, because he, like, had to get rid of the stuff. But it doesn't seem like he just, like, all of a sudden he just snapped and he was like, I just killed her. But you're still like, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah, like, he must have been thinking about this for a while. Like, you don't just, like, think about this for 20 minutes.
No, this has been lurking.
Yeah. That's scary.
This explains why a lot of women are true crime fans, because we're all like, you never know who's a freak, and you never know who's a kind of kill you freak.
Yeah.
As I told you, I got my new fridge yesterday.
Yeah.
And single white female, alone in my apartment, 2 guys bringing in a fridge and stuff, and I was just like, only realized afterwards the guy was like, 1, he told me I was beautiful, which it was a lie because it was early morning. And 2, he had asked me, like, he was like, oh, so you're here alone or something. And I was just like, later, I was like, oh man, this is how I die. So naturally I tell Heather from Nature versus Narcissism, because she lives 15 minutes away. I'm like, if I die, it's either this guy from Lowe's or it's the murder van guy who parks outside. Either one. You've got this now.
Uh-huh.
But if I turned up dead and didn't make it to one of the 2 police stations that are close to my apartment, that's what happened.
Now they know where you live.
Yes, I know they know where I live. He's been in my apartment, unlike Murder Van guy who just parks his murder van right outside my window. Which is creepy. It's like, the street is probably less than 4 feet away from my kitchen window. So if he's parking in the one spot, he's right there. He can see inside my kitchen. But the other guy's been inside my kitchen because of the new fridge, and I'm very excited about that, but still, I'm now paranoid as hell. Live constantly like you're going to get murdered, and you won't be murdered. Though apparently, that did not help Jessica at all.
No. And of course she didn't, like, expect her stepdad to murder her. Like, you could be in bed with the devil, and you don't even know it. Like, your stepdad...
I believe there's a whole investigation discovery called Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So, clearly that's true.
Gregory also described the whole experience as a, quote, nightmare. And a nightmare for him. It was a nightmare. And also says, I wasn't thinking. I just thought I could get away with something. So weird. And then Greg goes on in his confession to say that he didn't understand his actions. He never fantasized about violence, but he does watch a lot of porn. He's a liar.
Real question, what kind of porn is he watching that this is his fantasy? Clearly really aggressive porn. And, you know, I'm sorry it was a nightmare for you while you're defiling a corpse.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she didn't think it was great either because she's dead. Like she trusted you.
It was a nightmare.
And murder her and defile her body.
It was a nightmare. Gregory also complained that he should have picked his 46-year-old neighbor, Karen Gundrum, as a victim instead because he would have gotten away with it. Yeah.
So this is more premeditative because you're like, It was kind of a spur of the moment who the victim was, but he had been thinking about this. Also, he wants to get away with it. Steal some candy. Jaywalk. Get away with it. Don't murder someone and defile their corpse. That's not something you're going to get away with because you defile the corpse. Come on.
He said...
It's like you've never watched Dateline.
I know. This is like the worst plan ever. He said, I know I'm not really a bad guy. I just lost my mind momentarily and I didn't want to hurt anyone. So I don't even understand this. Like, his sexual needs were so important that he didn't give a fuck who you hurt, basically. You know? That's it.
Didn't want to hurt anyone. You killed someone. So you hurt someone.
Oh my God.
And now you have 3 kids without a mom. And I'm pretty sure your wife is going to divorce your ass.
Gregory showed police on a map where to find Jessica's body. So on November 26, 2014, police find Jessica on her mother's and stepfather's property at 451 Covered Bridge Road in Allen Township. She was down an embankment behind a shed, wrapped in a blanket with debris and leaves on top of her. So he just, like, pushed her down an embankment and, like, barely covered her.
My question would be, did he cover her face? Because, you know, if you cover the face, it shows, like, regret. But...
Yes, I believe he did.
So he probably regretted killing her. It was... I'm going to go with it was an opportunistic crime that he had been fantasizing about. And she was just the unlucky person, for some reason, who was the target of it.
But didn't he love her? Like, didn't he love her? It was his, stepchild. I don't get it.
I think he probably did love her. It's just something snapped. I don't know. How bad do you think the neighbor feels now, though? Because think about it. She was gonna be the one who was gonna be the target. And now she knows she's not the target. Like, that guilt?
I know. Well, she's lucky. So let's run down this timeline again. 12:50, Jessica goes to her stepdad's house to help him with his stupid fax machine. And he repeatedly called her that day and said, I really need you to help me. I really need your help. So it was 1 mile from her work to the house. Greg walks up behind Jessica as she's sitting down near the fax machine, shoots her with a .22 2 times in the back of the head. Luckily for her, she didn't see it coming. A little after 1 o'clock, Gregory drives Jessica's Subaru to the Dollar General parking lot. He's driving erratically, which police saw in video, and very fast. Greg had arranged to have his truck there in the same area earlier in the day. So he had his truck there. Like, he had a plan. He drives back home in his truck. About 30 seconds after leaving Jessica's Subaru, he goes back to the crime scene, drags Jessica's body to the spare bedroom. This gets worse. And then he acts totally normal for the rest of the afternoon because his employees are coming in and out of the house to get their paychecks on a Friday afternoon while Jessica's dead body is in a bedroom.
Okay, now I'm going to take back that this was opportunistic because if he keeps calling her...
Yeah.
He has someone drive his truck over there before she even gets there. Like... Sir, any case of self-defense and, like, insanity goes out the window when you keep calling the victim, and then you have a set-up getaway and disposal of the car. Like, it would have been easier if he said, hey, my stepdaughter needs you to drive her car here and drop it off for her husband or something. That would have been a better plan than...
It's a bad plan. It's a bad one.
How bad are the employees feeling, though, knowing they were in and out of that house?
Yeah.
Like, how creeped out would you be? And they'd be like, hey, you were in the murder house.
So, after everyone is gone for the day, his employees, Greg sets up his video camera on the computer and 2 video cameras he bought a few days earlier. So, again, obviously had this planned. Yeah.
It's worse.
Yeah.
It's worse. Also, webcams, was it 2014?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of fair. This computer's from 2014, and you can vouch it's okay audio, like visual quality. It's pretty decent. It's not great, but no. As one of my favorite comedians recently said, filming yourself having sex is like watching two potatoes run into each other. Like, it's not attractive. Why would you do it?
Which comedian is that?
I think it was Russell Howard talking about the negativity of porn and how men view sex.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Greg covers Jessica's face and head with a plastic bag because the blood was freaking him out.
Not sleeping with a dead body, but the bloody face is creepy? Okay, sir.
Jessica is clearly deceased in the video. Greg then proceeds to commit several crimes on Jessica's corpse. He has sex with the body for 2 hours while swearing profanities at her. He also used sex toys he had bought a few days earlier on the dead body.
So this is a very expensive crime, because let's go through this. He's buying sex toys.
Yep.
And cameras. Like, that's not cheap. That's a couple $100, $500, let's just say, easily. That's not a cheap crime, sir. And I bet you he used his credit card, so you can prove it.
Oh my god, he's so stupid. I don't understand. So,
and this poor woman and her family have to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh.
So the motive for all of this was that Greg wanted to have sex with a dead body. So instead of just picking a stranger like any normal person would do, Greg had to have his sexual needs met, and he killed the closest woman around. The closest woman, his stepchild, so that he could get off. And that's it.
Real question.
Yeah.
His wife was not there. What if his wife was there? It would have been his wife.
I think he waited for his wife to go to Florida. So again, planned. Totally planned out.
It's so plain. It's like, at first you're like, okay, maybe it was a crime of passion. And then the more you just figure it out, you're like, oh, this was like a long-term plan. The victim was probably just decided on a couple days before, but the fantasy had been building. Also, just go work at a morgue or something. I don't know.
That's a good idea.
Like, don't kill someone.
When Greg tires of having sex with Jessica's dead body, he covers her with a blanket. He leaves her like trash in a ravine behind a shed on his 7-acre property that he shared with Jessica's mother. And I also imagine he had to do some sort of cleanup in the home because he did shoot her 2 times and his wife was coming home. So.
And you said he shot her in the basement, right? That's where the fax machine was?
I don't think it was in the basement. I think it was like the home office.
So he had to clean up before the employees come in, because think about it, if you're coming in to pick up your paychecks, you got to go in the office. Oh my god.
Yeah. 5 days after Jessica went missing, Gregory did his confession, and he was arrested and held with no bond. He was
fair.
Yeah. He was charged with first-degree murder and charged with intent to distribute marijuana as they found his small grow operation in his basement during the search. Like, they already charged him with murder. Do they really need to do the marijuana charge? Like, what? Who gives a shit?
Is that who was coming to pick up their checks? His dealers? Also, I think they're just like, we're going to throw everything at him because this is disgusting. Like, those detectives, just because I know a former detective, they see a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And still, stuff surprises them. Like, the one case I know has surprised the detective in my family. He was like, a couple thousand images of kiddie porn on someone's computer that then you have to go through. That was an excessive amount of kiddie porn, I guess.
Oh my god. Exactly.
I should mention he was a sex crimes detective.
Yeah.
That's how he met my cousin. But that's still like,
yeah.
There's just things that stick in your mind, and I feel like this one, they're probably, first of all, like you said, they brought in state troopers, so the state troopers probably are still like, we're all going to the bar after this, right? We're all drinking shots. Because you can't unremember this.
The Paget family released a statement, and the state police read it. It basically, talked about how they were devastated. They wanted to thank the Pennsylvania State Police for their tireless efforts, which is true. They thanked the public and the media for spreading her picture around, and they also asked for the media to respect their privacy. I'm sure the mother was, devastated, like beyond belief.
She couldn't probably live in her house. I'm sorry, I couldn't live in that house. Knowing what your husband did to your daughter?
Yeah. Unfortunately for everyone, the prosecution had to play some of the video that was taken by Graf of him sexually assaulting Jessica during the trial. Several jurors had to be excused because they couldn't handle how graphic the video was. And Paget's family kept their eyes down, held hands, and passed tissues. Some of them had to flee the courtroom. And even Gregory Graf's own lawyer could not look at the video, which is, bad for him. The courtroom was dead silent except for crying. So, yeah, they had to play the video. And the defense, they pretty much had nothing at this point. All they could do was try to convince the jury that something had snapped in Gregory and that it was not planned. But, as we know, it wasn't too hard for the prosecution to prove that this case and this crime was, in fact, planned ahead of time. For so many reasons. The sex toys, the video, the parking of the vehicle, just like so much. He confessed also that he wanted to have sex with their body, and he said that he waited until his wife was in Florida to commit the crime. And the confession, and he showed the police where Jessica's body was. So it was pretty cut and dry. November 13th, 2015, the jurors went out to decide Greg's fate, and it took them 6 minutes to come back with their vote. 6 minutes.
So they walked in the room. They all looked at each other and
they were like, yep.
We're rallying. He's gone. Like everyone's just like, yeah, we all saw that video, right? We all had to see that?
Yeah.
We're all burning our eyes after this, right? Yep. Yep. Okay. Guilty on all charges. Okay, go back. I think they beat, what is it? There was one from...
There's one with less than 6
There's one that's pretty close, and it's like a big... I feel like it's Emmett Till, but it might not be, where it was very quick turnaround, where basically they said they asked for some coffee, and that was the only reason they took that long, is like they just went through and they were like, it's getting off covers it, and they were like, we've never seen a jury come back this fast. Wow. And it was like, when defense attorneys and a former prosecutor say that, you're just like, oh, that hurts inside everywhere.
Gregory was found guilty of first-degree murder for the death of his stepdaughter, Jessica Paget, and guilty of sexually abusing a corpse. He received life in prison with no chance of parole. He was 54 years old, and Jessica's family, they were crying, and they had like cheers of yes. And of course, Greg showed no emotion at his sentencing because he has no emotions at all.
I think at that point, he's just numb because he did a horrible, horrible thing. Like, also, for the family, you're happy, but you're also really sad because that was a member of your family who defiled another member of your family in such an unspeakable way. Like, you think about it, as bad as we say, like, so probably hundreds of kids get abused every day. And that's horrible on so many levels. But then you think about it, how rare is actual necrophilia and actual murder for necrophilia? It's insane to think about that. Like, so she just, it's such a rare case, but it's also so horrible that, like, I don't know, it's just, you look at these special, like, crimes and you're like, what is messed up in your brain that you want or you need to do this? Because I have heard some crazy shit, and that's still some crazy shit.
Yeah, it's over the top. Gregory blamed his lawyer for the guilty verdict.
Sir, you confessed and you filmed yourself.
This is
it's like R. Kelly blaming the sex tapes on his lawyer. Like, sir, you film yourself.
I know. He was upset that he paid a high-end lawyer $60,000, and his lawyer didn't call any witnesses for his defense. His lawyer also did not do any motions post-trial. And I actually kind of think that his defense lawyer thought that he was a piece of shit, because his own lawyer said, quote, "It is what it is. He caused it by doing that, and I can't blame anyone but him." And that's his lawyer saying that, so, yeah.
His lawyer was probably trying to do the best defense. Who is he going to find to defend him? His wife?
Yeah,
his wife's not going to go up there. Like, his employees? I think they're all in therapy now because they were in a building with a dead body that their boss defiled. Like, he probably just did the best to, I don't know if Pennsylvania is a death penalty state, but, like, just to make sure he didn't get the worst sentence.
Right. 18 months after Gregory was found guilty, this guy starts to contest the financial terms of the divorce between him and his wife, the mother of the girl he murdered. So not only did he murder and have sex with her corpse, now he's trying to contest financial terms in the divorce, which is like beyond. Greg's claims were rejected, and Bittner was able to make financial choices she wanted because her husband was in prison. All she wanted was financial control, and yeah. Jessica Paget's husband, Michael, said, "The trial was as hard as you can believe. This is something you try to prepare yourself for, but once it starts happening, all of that is out the window. That's the hardest of all, knowing that you had a future, you had something that was yours, and somebody else took that away from you." And just for the record, Jessica's mother was married to Gregory for 17 years. She knew this man for 22 years. And then he committed this crime. Jessica's mother only spoke to Gregory 3 more times, and it was over the prison phone before the trial started. After that, she never talked about him again. Never talked to him again. She was done.
I mean, I would be too.
Yeah. I think they only had to talk about financial stuff, and that's all. She probably had nothing else to say to him.
She probably told the lawyer, just don't let him fry. That's all we want. It's just don't let him fry.
And that's it. Like, I can't even understand a crime like this. Like, he must have been fantasizing about this for years and years.
Oh, yeah. But she was married. 17 years of your life. I'm trying to think of, I would be 9. God. I'm trying to think of someone, like, that I haven't known since I was a kid. And it's just like, you have to think, would you trust them with your life? And at that point you say, yeah, because I've known them for 17 years. And you said 22, so what? For me, I'd be 4. That's most of the people, like my family friends, my family. Like, that's insane.
And instead of just pleading guilty, like, he could have just pled guilty. He just wanted people to think it wasn't premeditated. So he, like, made his wife and Jessica's family go through that whole trial just so that maybe he'd get second-degree murder. He's literally the most selfish man I've ever researched in these true crime podcasts. Like the most.
If he was a historical figure, I would probably put him in my Assholes of History section. The unofficial series that I have. Where I just call historical figures assholes, but it's normally not wrong, and I try to put it in the historical context, but he's just an asshole for doing that.
So that's it. That's the story.
Yeah.
And you can let us know what you think about it at Cult of Domesticity or Burn for Murderific, and let us know what you think.
Please subscribe to Murderific True Crime Podcast on iTunes or where you listen to podcasts. Please leave a rating and an honest review for Murderific True Crime Podcast. Support Murderific by going to Murderific on Patreon and contributing. It will help with website and production costs, and you'll also be helping a small business to continue. Your contribution, even $1 a month, will keep us going. The links to contribute are also on murderific.com. Follow me on social media, on Twitter as Murderific BPC or Instagram at Murderific Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Murderific True Crime Podcast. Until next time, we'll be executing podcasts one crime at a time.